Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. It is time for us... Okay, Cooper. Hello. We'll try that one again. It is time for us to choose our November reads. We're going to have the TBR jar pick what we're going to read in the month of November. So we always start out these TBR jar videos by talking about if we managed to complete our TBR that we set for ourselves last month. And last month I didn't. It was the first month in a few months that I wasn't able to fully complete my TBR. But I'm very happy to report that my TBR was completed in October. We did manage to read the 6 books we picked together last month, so that's great. We're back on track with that. But again, a TBR is something that I just like to set for myself, of like prioritizing books that I really want to read, or new releases, or books that I've had on my TBR shelf for a while. But I'm not super strict with it because at the end of the day, reading is for enjoyment and for fun. This is just like a really fun way to pick some special books because I definitely read more than 6 books in a month. So this is just like a small percentage of the books that I read through the month. But if we get sidetracked for some reason, then we're gonna get sidetracked, you know? And I always try to read as many of my books as I can in reading vlogs across the month. So if this is your first video of mine that you're seeing, if you've not seen my face before, make sure you click the subscribe button because we do a lot of fun bookish content around here. And if you have been around for a while, just want to say thank you. I'm very grateful and appreciative for everyone who's sat here today watching me. I feel like I don't say that enough on my channel here, but I feel so lucky and grateful to have this incredible bookish community here where we just get to sit and yap about books together, and you guys get to watch me cry about them sometimes on the internet. That's honestly a little bit embarrassing. But anyways, we're going off track today. I've had a little bit of sugar if you can't tell. My TBR, honestly, not really changed at all. I haven't really done any book shopping. The only book shopping I've done recently, and I say recently as in the last 6 months, has just been like pre-orders. I haven't really actively gone and shopped for books this month because I do have my Fairy Loot subscription. So every month I get a YA fantasy book, an adult fantasy book, and a romantasy book. And then just pre-orders that I did at the end of last year. That's pretty much it. I try to get through as many of them as I can, and some books on here are starts of new series that I've been waiting for other series to finish so then I can pick up a new series, because I don't want to try and pick up too many books at once. I kind of like to binge a series at a time, or binge our books when we can when we're here. So what are we going to read this month? I think that's enough yapping happening from me right now. We should get the TBR jar out. That would be helpful. In terms of new releases, I'm always bad when I think of the new releases that are coming out because I forget them. I do have a list of them written down, but the list is wrong. It's outdated. I know we have the 4th and the final book coming in the Legacy series, but that's coming at the end of November, so I don't know if I'll read it at the end of November or the 1st of December. But anyways, it's getting read because it's the final book in one of my favorite dark fantasy romance series ever. And other than that, I can't really remember what else is coming out because I read Fallen Stars. That's coming out in November. I'm very excited for all of you guys to read that, but I have already read that. Do we have an arc or two on here that's also coming out in November around that time? Oh, it's Hollow Eye, the Twisted Sisters, coming out in November. I kind of want to read that ASAP as well because I've not read that yet. I can't believe it's been sat on my shelf here just waiting. I guess we're gonna pick our books and see where we go. So I have the jar here, and we're just going to pick 6 prompts for 6 books that we could pick up in the month of November to read, hopefully together, and reading vlogs. So the first prompt that we have is set in the current season. Oh, do we have like a fall winter book? I literally just read the last fall book that I had on my TBR because these are all kind of romantasies, you know? I mean, it's fall. Well, November's going into winter, so I guess would Frost count? Because the Frost and Nectar series, it's quite a short book. On the worst birthday of my life, I come home to find my boyfriend in bed with another woman. Oh, within hours I'm drunk, homeless, and pledging to stay single forever. And that is when the dangerous, sexy Seelie King rolls through town looking for fae like me. Every generation, the king holds a competition for a Seelie Queen. Oh, I think this was like proposed as like a bachelor with the fae type of storyline. But for reasons he won't explain, Torrin is looking for a charade, not a real marriage, so when I drunkenly sling insults his way, I have his attention. When Torrin offers me 50 million to participate, I think, what have I got to lose? The answer turns out to be my life, because my competition will literally kill me for the crown. And the more time I spend with the seductive king, the harder it becomes to remember it's all supposed to be fake. Now my life and my heart are on the line. Does it say when her birthday is? Because I don't think it's called Frost because of the time, you know? I can't figure out when this is, but this cover and title is giving end of year vibes. Definitely not One Golden Summer. Son of the Morning. See, these are fantasy books, so it's hard to tell if we have an autumnal read here. I don't know when these books are set, guys. Wait. Chapter 1. The First Time. November 6th to be exact. we have our book chosen for us. This is Unearthly by Cynthia Hand. I just got these Fairy Loot editions of the trilogy. I've never read it before. It is a YA fantasy romance series, fantasy series, trilogy from many years ago, many years ago. It's nothing new. So I just love a YA fantasy series. We know that I love my YA books, and we got like part angel here. I see the word Nephilim. I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued. So I did want to read this series soon, the entire trilogy, so I might read the whole trilogy. But we have this gorgeous edition of the book here, like I said, from Fairy Loot, and I have the 2 other books here. So I think we're gonna go with this one because this says the word November, and I didn't want to read or like continue reading a lot more of what the first chapter says in case 1, it's incorrect, because I kind of want to read this, and 2, because then I would just be sat here reading the book trying to find when it's set. But because it's November, we should read a book that starts out set in November. So book number 1, set in the current season, it's the same month, we have Unearthly by Cynthia Hand. The blurb for Unearthly says, Clara has known she is part angel since she turned 14 2 years ago, but only now, through fragmented visions of a raging forest fire and a mysterious boy, is her purpose, the crucial rite of the passage for every part angel, becoming clear to her. They lead her to a new high school in a new town but provide no clear instruction. When Clara meets Christian, the boy in her visions, he is everything she could wish for. So why does she always have feelings for her enigmatic classmate Tucker? And when the fire of her vision erupts and both Christian and Tucker are in danger, who will she choose to save? So excited for that. So that's our first book chosen. That was a good one. Book number 2. Start/continue an interconnected standalone series. Ooh, what interconnected standalone series am I in the middle of? I don't even need to check my phone because the last interconnected standalone series that I picked up was The Darkness Within Us by Trisha Levenseller, and then I went and ordered book 1, and book 1 is due to be delivered this month. So I think that that's the book that we should go with, because then I'm continuing an interconnected standalone series but also completing it. I read book 2 and then I'm going back and reading book 1, so I should do that. So I think that's going to be our book number 2, but I obviously don't have the physical book with me just yet. So on Goodreads at least, the blurb says, Alessandra is tired of being overlooked, but she has a plan to gain power. 1, woo the Shadow King. 2, marry him. 3, kill him and take his kingdom for herself. No one knows the extent of the freshly crowned Shadow King's power. Some say he commands the shadows that swirl around him to do his bidding. Others say they speak to him, whispering the thoughts of his enemies. Regardless, Alessandra knows what she deserves and she's going to do everything within her power to get it. But Alessandra's not the only one trying to kill the king. As attempts on his life are made, she finds herself trying to keep him alive long enough for him to make her his queen, all while struggling not to lose her heart. After all, who better for a Shadow King than a cunning villainous queen? So that's definitely going to be the second book we're adding to our TBR. So they're our first 2 books picked. Great start. Honestly, I'm very excited about this month. Book number 3. We've got 2 stuck together. We'll go with the yellow one because we pulled 2 orange ones. 2025 TBR, you're joking. So this is a book that I should pick from my 25 books I want to read in 2025. So let's have a look at the list because I have the list on my phone. So I do have a few books on my 25 books in 2025, and the books left on my list are Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, Jade City, The Ever King, Worthy of Fate, The Curse of Ophelia, A Touch of Darkness, The Kiss of Deception, Dark Fever, The Bone Season, The Things We Never Got Over, The Atlas 6, Psycho Shifters, and some of those I do have on my physical TBR. So I think we're going to narrow it down by picking a book on my physical TBR to prioritize getting through my physical TBR. But the ones that I want to read most, well, we've got A Touch of Darkness, and we've also got The Ever King. We've got some others like The Atlas 6, but I generally just don't think that I'm in the mood to read that at the moment. I think we're going to take it for one of these 2. Now, this one I've heard great things about and I've really wanted to read, and this one I've heard some mixed things about. And I did read my first Scarlett St. Clair book. That was her Terror at the Gates read, and I did enjoy that. This one is start of a new series. It feels a little bit daunting. This is it not sets of duologies in this world. A Touch of Darkness says, Persephone is the goddess of spring in title only. Since she was a little girl, flowers have only shriveled at her touch. After moving to New Athens, she hoped to lead an unassuming life disguised as a mortal journalist. All that changes when she sits down in a forbidden nightclub to play a hand of cards with a hypnotic and mysterious stranger. Hades, god of the dead, has built a gambling empire in the mortal world, and his favorite bets are rumored to be impossible. But nothing has ever intrigued him as much as the goddess, offering him a bargain he can't resist. After her encounter with Hades, Persephone finds herself in a contract with the god of the dead, and his terms are impossible. Persephone must create life in the underworld or lose her freedom forever. The bet does more than expose Persephone's failure as a goddess. However, as she struggles to sow the seeds of her freedom, love for the god of the dead grows, a love that is both captivating and forbidden. So that actually does sound sound really quite interesting to me. The Ever King says, they stole his crown, so he stole their daughter. You know what? I think that line is enough to sell me to want to pick up this one. For years, Eric, the scarred king of the Ever Kingdom, has thought of nothing but vengeance against the man who killed his father and trapped him beneath the waves, making him a prisoner in his own realm. Until his enemy's daughter unintentionally breaks the divide between kingdoms, and Eric is free to make her the unwitting pawn in his brutal game of revenge. She's innocent, he's vicious, but he will take back what he lost no matter the price, unless she steals his heart first. I think we're gonna go with this. Now, here's the thing. It says, welcome to the passionate world of the Ever Kingdom, where pirates, sirens, and fae collide with Vikings in a dark fantasy romance. I like pirates, I like sirens. I've not had good luck with Viking fantasy books. So I think I'm gonna pick this one up because, I mean, they're both on my TBR. This feels like a shorter series to commit to, so I could read book 1 and then jump straight into book 2 if I want. Whereas this one, I know there are more books, so we'll put this one back down for now. We'll read The Ever King. I've been wanting to read this since it was indie published, because obviously it's now traditionally published, but I've heard so many good things about this one and it seems fun. So that's gonna be our third pick. We've got 3 hardcovers so far, guys. Let's pick another. Okay, we got another yellow one. Any romance. Now here's the thing, I mainly have fantasy romance. Can I just pick any fantasy romance that I want to read? Is this like a pick any choice? I'm gonna take this as a pick anything choice because they're all fantasy romance. They all have romance in it. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. I would say Hollow, but Hollow is such strong enemies to lovers in their, like the Twisted Sisters do in their books, that I don't even know if book 1 will have romance in it, you know what I mean? And we do have just like one contemporary romance book on here, Slow Burn, which seems like it could be a fun read. Wait, I have romance on my physical shelf. Let's get a book. I always forget about this book because I never have it down. I should probably put these on my TBR cart because I forget I have them all the time because I have like the series and they're on my shelf. So we have Collide by Bal Cabra and we have Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. The colours of these are very pretty together, but I think I should probably read one of these. Oh, I also have Breaking Point by Mads Rafferty that I can read. Okay, so we do have way more options than I thought, but these ones I keep forgetting about because they're on my bookshelf, so I'm gonna pick one of them. They're also a series that have 3 books out, and I've read 1 book. I've read book 3 in the Maple Hills series, and I've read book 2 in this series. Wait, these are also interconnected standalones that I could have picked up. Ah. Me forgetting what books that I have until after a prompt is done. Now we could read Icebreaker. I feel like this is such an OG classic BookTok book that's, I don't know, I feel like this was one of the first ice hockey books I heard of and kind of blew up. Not saying that Hannah Grace was the first to write that, but this is just the one that I think of and I've never read it. And then we also have Collide. I think we're gonna go what has the least amount of pages. So this one has 405 pages and this one has 429 pages. So it looks like we're reading Collide. At the top it says, if you loved The Deal and Icebreaker, you'll love this, which is so funny because I did enjoy The Deal and I haven't read Icebreaker, but I'm gonna put this on my TBR cart now so I don't forget it. When Summer Preston's professor issues her with an ultimatum, she finds herself on an unexpected collision course with hockey captain Aidan Crawford. Summer hates everything about hockey for good reason, but she isn't going to let that stand in the way of her becoming a sports psychologist. Aidan loves being the hockey captain, except when his team's reckless mistake jeopardizes their entire season. When coach puts him forward for a research paper as punishment, he has no choice but to accept. Summer can't stand his blasé approach to life, and Aidan doesn't get her uptight scheduled one. They're off to a rocky start, and provoking each other, it turns out, is what they do best. As sparks fly, neither wants to be the one to give in. Can they get everything they want, including each other? Book number 4. So we've got 2 more books left to pick. A book that starts with an M. I think we tried to pick this one before, but we didn't have any books that started with an M. The Serpent Bride, House of Bane and Blood, Forest of Hearts, 7 Deadly Sins, The Last Starborn, Games God Play Frost, Icebreaker, Hollow, Bitten, ASHOBTESBBTDLTG. Let's check the Fairy Loot books. Read that one. GH. Oh, we have a book that starts with an M that I could read with this, guys. This is actually... Okay, you know what? Yeah, that's so fair. Wow, we're reading quite a few books off of my actual bookshelf. The reason why some of my books are on my bookshelf and not my TBR cart when I haven't read them is because if I've read 1 or 2 books in the series, I'll have the whole series on the shelf for space reasons, you know? Because it's very annoying when I read a book and I have to reconfigure my entire bookshelf layout because the next book in the series won't fit on the shelf. But anyways, we have Morning Star by Pierce Brown. I read Red Rising last year, and then in October, my fiance chose my reads and we read Golden and Son. So then I would be completed the original trilogy. I'm very afraid for this. I'm not going to read out the blurb for the third book because that would be a spoiler if you've not read the other two, but I will tell you about book one. It's a sci-fi series, and there are more books that follow after this, but this was written as the original trilogy, and I don't own physical copies of the other books in the series so far, so I will feel quite happy completing this series to date, and then I can see how I'm feeling about it if I'm going to go and read the other books, but at least I've finished the original trilogy and then can continue working through it at my own pace. So our fifth book is Morningstar. Red Rising, I think I saw on Amazon years ago that they were comping it, saying like if the Hunger Games took place in space like Star Wars or something like that, which I thought was like a wild comparison for a book. We're following Darrow, who is a Red and is a member of the lowest color-coded group in this society. They have their rankings by red, so obviously red is at the bottom. We've got pinks, greens, golds obviously at the top, logically. Like his fellow Reds, he works all day believing that he and his people are making the surface of Mars livable for future generations. Sci-fi. Yet he spends his life willingly knowing that his blood and sweat will one day result in a better world for his children. But Darrow and his kind have been betrayed. Soon he discovers that humanity already reached the surface generations ago. Vast cities and sprawling parks spread across the planet. Darrow and the Reds, like him, are nothing more than just slaves to a decadent ruling class. Inspired by a longing for justice and driven by the memory of a lost love, Darrow sacrifices everything to infiltrate the legendary Institute, a proving ground for the dominant Golds, where the next generation of humanity's overlords struggle for power. He will be forced to compete for his life and the very future of civilization against the best and most brutal of society's ruling class. There, he will stop at nothing to bring down his enemies, even if it means he has to become one of them to do so. So, I read Red Rising, like I said, in a 24-hour readathon, and I read book one and I felt like I didn't love book one, but then we've recently read book two and I'm in the mood to pick up and continue this series to date with the physical books that I own. But I did think book one was very much like Hunger Games meets Lord of the Flies, but in space. It was a very interesting storyline to get you into it, but it wasn't a series I was rushing to complete. So this prompt has pushed me to pick up this book and we will be reading Morningstar. That means we've got one more prompt left, so let's see, what have we got? Opposite themes and tropes from the last book you read. You know what? If we're going to be really specific, the last book that I read was the Second Born in the Mistborn trilogy, which is a fantasy series. There's very little romance in this. So I think if we're comparing like an epic, very politically heavy fantasy book written by a man, we need to go for a fantasy romance written by women. And the tropes in this will be very different to the tropes in this, I can guarantee. So I think I'm going to use that to pick Hollow by the Twisted Sisters because I am dying to read this. It comes out, when does it come out? I think it comes out in November. Let me have a look. Yeah, the end of November. So I'm gonna read this in November. We're gonna read Hollow, ideally, hopefully before it is released. So this is the first book in a new series by Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. I have read Zodiac Academy here. I have read Neverkeep. I have read Darkmoor Penitentiary by them. I have also read The Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac. I haven't read some more of their backlog, like Eternal Rain and things. They're like Kindle Unlimited books that I do want to eventually get around to. Like ideally I'd love to read everything that they've published, but this is the start of a new series, so I don't even think it's set in the same world as Zodiac Academy. So for people who didn't like Zodiac Academy, like you don't have to have read that. Like this is a brand new series. And Emily Fun DNF'd Zodiac Academy. She did not like Zodiac Academy and she's already read this and said it was one of her favorite fantasy reads of the year so far. So I'm going to take that as like a really interesting sign. I also do think after they've written Zodiac Academy, like the books they've been putting out, I have like really enjoyed. And I also did enjoy Zodiac Academy, but their Neverkeep series felt more like more was happening. I don't know, it was just more like War College vibes. But what is the blurb for this one? I don't think it's on this ARC copy, so I'm gonna have to look that up. So this says, don't listen to the whispers of the wood, don't trust the man cloaked in shadow, don't earn the wrath of the scattered spirits, don't go out after dark. The great hunt begins once every 50 years, and only the champions willing to face death to shatter the curse dare to enter. The champions and me. I'm no warrior, no swordsmith, and certainly no fae. That's interesting. But the forest is my only hope. To enter those trees is to walk willingly to my demise, but I need the boon the forest will grant the winner, and I'm willing to risk it all for a chance at claiming it. I just never expected to face him beneath those trees. The beast who strikes fear in the desperate people of all lands. The monster who commands a legion of hollows and makes our plight 1,000 times worse. The hollows are empty of all things, but none are so heartless as him. Prince Bane intends to be the death of me, but I have an oath to fulfill before I'll let him have me, and I'll do whatever it takes to achieve it. I am Ferris Creed, and I'm going to to unite the lost spirits who once bound the wandering trees in place, return the scattered amulets to the core of its corruption, and use the winner's boon to change my fate. Come wretchedness or torment, through trickery and deception, I will get what I came here for, and no one will stand in my way, not even Prince Bane. Dark romantasy. Ooh. Excited for this one. So that is the 6th and final book that we're reading. So to recap, we're reading Unearthly by Cynthia Hand, The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenzeller, The Ever King by LJ Andrews, Collide by Bal Cabra, Morning Star by Pierce Brown, and Hollow by Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. And that is our TBR for the month of November. Let me guys know what your #1 book that you want to get around to reading in November is. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.